I'm Iwona Wilson. I'm Polish, Australian. I've lived in South Texas when I found you. Then I moved to Florida when I actually started working with you. So that's has always been sort of shaping who I am. My traveling has always been part of my life and how I work. But what I do, I'm a professional facilitator. I specialize with helping leaders shape their projects at the idea stage so that they can achieve the high success rates and projects they like. And I work with mainly oil and gas industry, but I also now niche down with mining. And somehow, the more I niche down, the more I get clients from other industries.
When you think back to when we first met and started talking about potentially joining the program, can you explain briefly in a sentence or two what problem were you trying to solve then, or what were you trying to get done?
Just to give you a bit of a background, which I think is relevant, is I've spent about a decade working for one oil and gas company down in Australia. So I have developed a particular way of speaking about opportunity framing workshops. I have developed a particular way of, being with project managers and working with them. But now, as I moved to the States and I've been moving with my family between different states and I'm engaging with different industry, when you and I met, I realized that I'm trying to apply the same speaking to people from a different culture with different expectations, with little different problems. And that was one of my biggest struggle, really finding the right language, approach, and being able to relate to project managers who I had the main offer for. So what I ended up doing, I was trying to please everyone by all means. I was trying to solve any problem with everyone, and I was trying to convince everyone that like you've got to have opportunity framing workshop. But as you know, many frameworks or many workshops, they have a lot of knowledge behind that. So I really struggle to really
Yeah.
sell. I really struggle to sell. And so no matter how much I work on my mindset, not having organized knowledge was really something that was holding me back from really making a difference to clients that I want to work with.
It's a common challenge that other experts share, and I really appreciate you sharing that, just so that people can identify and resonate with that as well. I know I certainly do. Now, with that, I know you're an expert. You demonstrate expertise. So when you think back to that moment when you were beginning to join the program, uh, what what made you decide to book in a consultation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, yeah, so although I'm an expert in one field, it doesn't really mean I was able to sell frequently in the way I want to the clients I wanted. So I think I got to the point when I was just like, okay, what I'm doing is just not working. So it's okay if you lose one client, it's okay if you lose one pitch. But I knew there was something about my way of engaging right from the start. How do I even communicate the first value proposition? And I even got through experiences when the deal was always almost made and something fall out. Or I got to a situation where we went through the process, but then there was a lot of struggle. The client took too long, or I took too long. It wasn't set up in the way that I wanted. So I knew that there's something with that I need to walk away, and I knew I need to really look away and listen from others. How do I package what I have? And maybe what I taught down in Australia, it's not the only way. Maybe I need to think for myself how to create my own little baby that I can actually sell, mainly online, because that's one thing. Because I've traveled so much, I realized that to have a sustainable business, you need to have something that can work no matter where you at. But so that was something that was resonating with me, and so the number one thing to answer your question is it was my own realization that I was hitting a wall.
Yeah.
And then number two was, it was really, I know you were connected with quite a few connections that I trusted. And so I watched you for a little while, and I actually saw a couple of your posts on LinkedIn. and they were so business related for facilitators. And I think it was about consultation process, and it was about developing an offer. And because you've got so, so many facilitators that I know, they all jumped in commenting. And I thought, oh my God, I love that this guy doesn't talk about post-it notes and talks about the business of facilitation, because that's what most of us are really struggling with. And it was only a post, like it wasn't even a master thesis, it wasn't even a video. And I love that it was so easy to read. It was so easy to get your points, what you were trying to say. So that was like, I know I want to follow this guy, because, and then when I saw what kind of work you do as a facilitator, well, that kind of like helped me with my ego, like you've got that facilitator's ego. Like if you were not a facilitator, I was like, what do you know about my business? But because you are like this expert facilitator, then you did that workshop with Gordon Brown in London. I'm like, I lived in London. Like, what? I want to know this guy. Like, what if I move back to London? Like, who I'm gonna like hang out with? So like you were just like ticking every box I had. And it was just like the way you engage with me,
Oh,
and then and I thought, okay, well, you said you're gonna have a value, whether you join or not. Like, why don't you just hop on 45 minutes with me? And I thought like, okay. And
yeah.
so to be honest, you kind of enrolled me just because how you show up with me on the call. And I walked away and I really knew, I almost like, I got it on my page, like, well, these are the mistakes I'm making and this is why. And then I realized that, you can be good at facilitating workshops, but to get the client and sell, you've got to develop consultation skills. And that's what I was missing. I was missing that business skill set, which was purely really consultation. How do you develop an offer that works? How do you communicate that offer? How do you present this? How do you answer, the challenges that your clients have? And then how do you sign them up? And then you deliver. So you use the skills you already have. I mean, you might work on them, you might master them. And then how do you complete so they book you up again?
Yeah, so it sounds like there was an expertise of being an expert facilitator, but then developing the expertise of being a consultant that delivers the facilitation, everything from
Yeah.
like the business development. Yeah. Out of curiosity, did you have any hesitation before you decided to join the program?
Ah, yes. Yeah, I mean, I just actually, I've just actually joined the program and I left after a week. Um, and that was really good because it made me realize what I don't want, you know.
Yeah,
So I didn't want to jump to a program where you have millions of people participating and you don't really have a real roadmap. What are you meant to be doing? And then you only left to like a Q&A session once a week. And that's the kind of thing I got in. I realized like I am not going to be able to stick with 12 months people jumping up with questions. They were just like too basic level. And I really needed to have a custom made roadmap for myself. And I needed to just have the time and tools to just work on my own framework. So that was my priority. That was the number one thing. And so when I saw your framework, when it says, well, this is what you're going to be doing, this is how we're going to be working together, this is what you need to submit for me for review, it appeared for me, okay, I'm going to update this element, this element, this element, and it became like my own roadmap, because
yeah,
the main reason for me was to organize my knowledge and
yeah,
in a way that kind of makes sense.
yeah. And you've got so much knowledge that it, and I saw what you ended up doing with it. So and we're going to get to that in a minute. I'm then curious. So then you joined the program, you decided to join the program, and I'm so glad that you did. Uh, was there any particular moment where you thought, yes, I made the right decision to work with PED?
Ah, there were loads of them. There was loads of them, absolutely loads of them. Initially when you jump into the program, it's like, you're trying to find yourself. but you are so personal straight away. Come on, jump on a call. I want to know, like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, oh, okay. No one asked me, like, who are you? Because so it's almost like you kind of activated my need to share myself again, because and you were always like, oh, come on, what's going on? What's going on? And you were like that with everyone else as we were going through the program. I mean, what was really amazing that, like once you join your program, what I really value is that you are so available to anything that was coming my way. And so that was just like, so I didn't just get the program, I didn't just get that organization of my knowledge, but I really got like the mentor, and that's what I really value. The trust that we've developed, the way you shared yourself. I was just able to give my best design, send you, and you got the next day feedback, and you say, well, change this, change that. And that was really, really good, because once you're in the program, you want to have the time to work on your framework, but then you also have your day-to-day that you have to manage. So then
Yeah,
having someone like Pat, like you're never on your own. So that is really investing in your business. So then one day in the future, you can say, okay, well, now no matter which state I live, I can have regular clients and I can enjoy my work. And I think
yeah,
that's what it's all about.
I love that, and I want to get to that where and just to see where you're at. But before we do that, I'm curious. You mentioned there was a few things that you found valuable. Was there any specific content that you thought was really useful, or any specific aha moments or takeaways that changed the way you do things?
Yes, yes, huge amount of realization. So I really love the big five framework. And that's how you really specifically looking at, so what is the problem that you solve for the client in the industry that they actually dealing with? They might have 20 different problems, but what's the one they're dealing with right now that they're ready to pay you and they're willing to invest, right? And then define that big five as who you who the problem you want to solve, and then what's the challenge they need to overcome, what's the benefit they're going to get at the end. And then another thing which is really important, especially if you're an in-house facilitator, like if you're an in-house facilitator, like it would take you a few months to establish credibility, but like once you establish the credibility and trust, like you got it. Like you don't need to enroll anyone to what you're doing, because the understanding is already across the business. And even more, they're coming to you because they have to, right? So you
But
don't really pay
yeah,
attention to things like how every element plays with each other for the benefit of the client. You just like you're running on a template. And so when I went on to create my own business, I realized that clients ask questions. And I thought like, okay. And then I realized I need to get better answer, and I only have my first meeting to really get them excited about working with me and doing this workshop. I need to inform them about what it's going to take. And I need to somehow give them a high level roadmap. So they're going to say, why are we going to do this? Why are we going to do this? Why are we going to do this? So really your framework is got so much detailed and was so perfectly designed that every activity is linked with client need or want or a challenge they already have. So when it gets into that enrollment, like that was real difficult for me. That really took me like probably 1 week sitting down every day, like, and working it out, how they're going to work. And then how am I going to teach? Because there's an element of teaching, there's an element of workshopping, there's element of can we do it before the workshop? And now there is element, how can I bring this to my clients remotely? And then what if they speak in another language? What are the essential elements? What are the things that we actually can do afterwards?
yeah,
So that was a game changer. And you can do it with anything. Like, most facilitators do strategic planning. I mean, you can create your own framework for strategic planning, and you can do it in a way that it's your own, and you can do it in a way you can really justify any activity, right? You're still going to have room to customize, but we're talking about like the essential elements. They're going to
Yeah.
actually help them to solve the problem they have or get as close as they can, in the time they have.
Yeah, I love that. And there's something really valuable about what you're saying here. Once you've got your framework, it opens up the possibilities of having the core elements and being flexible and creative about how you deliver and add value in other ways, which I definitely saw you go through the process, especially when you were prototyping different aspects of your framework within the projects that you were winning during the program. And so with that, I I'm curious about where are you now in terms of the benefits, the beyond the program. I know that we're wrapping up right now, but what are your wins, small or big, because of the program and because you implemented some of the things? I know that you've begun to talk about that right now, the developing a framework, having a core elements, and yeah, where are you now?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest win is really having like an ongoing contract with one of the mining companies. And that was, partially through my connections in Australia, but I became more intentional what I say on LinkedIn and how do I actually communicate framing. And I think I'm really going that way to be really intentional, focus on key topics and deliver real value, so that the clients, when they sit on the other side, and there's so many people, billions of people on LinkedIn, they actually do look at, my posts and other posts and really all the posts, especially if you can niche down. So then you specifically, that they feel like you're talking to them directly and deliver one bit at a time. So I was able to get some really good work, and really that led to more work. And now we're looking at implementing my opportunity framing workshops for a large organization across different businesses, which is really amazing because it's gonna help me to really share my knowledge in a real way, but also, it ticks so many other boxes. Like I can do a lot of this work remotely. I can actually validate a lot of my checklist forms, my guidelines, my documentation that really went with this. And I can also still practice how this can be done for mining, because most of my work was again in oil and gas. And so that's probably my biggest work. The other wins I got, it was really just by being in a program with other like-minded people and listening, that from other facilitators, what do you do? And then it was just like so much value. I'll never forget that. So I was watching others, and you said, what else? So when you comment on other framework, that's when you really get into the mechanism of how this framework works. So I could also like get my head out of my own stuff, help others, and then just like, oh yeah, okay, I can see what's that template about.
How will you continue to use what you've learned?
Okay, so my biggest goal is to really teach others what I do, especially when it comes to opportunity framing. So so that's what I tend to do next year, is to really open my program where I can teach, I can show my materials, my templates, my forms, my videos, and also I can really teach, because I think the biggest value from opportunity framing is when this workshop, this process is implemented in-house. And because you exposed to so much confidential information, it kind of makes sense for companies to train their people in-house and use me only when they need to. So that's like my biggest goal, to really sort of do more work with my clients, and then sometime later on, really just focus on coaching and mentoring. That's when it comes to opportunity framing workshop. Because I really believe like every company that does any kind of project, they need to be familiar at least with what is opportunity framing workshop. Like there is this gap between what project managers know because they follow the Institute of they follow the Project Management Institute, and sadly, Project Management Institute that does not cover opportunity framing processes, which are really crucial processes when it comes to solving complex projects when there are multiple stakeholders and different, often conflicting objectives. So that's my thing. My thing is to make it available to everyone, any organization, through coaching and helping them to implement facilitation and those processes in-house.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. I know that was one of the last few conversations we were having about essentially a new market. You know, once you've developed uh, your capabilities of selling this in-house and road testing the resources, just selling the resources as your offer and with the training. Yeah, it is. That's about scaling impact, and you're totally on target and on track to do that, Iwona. I don't have anything more to say other than thank you. But if there's anything, final words that you have.
Yeah. I would like to actually answer the question, who do I think your program is for?
Yeah,
Because I've met so many people and I'm like, you need to speak to Pat. You need to speak to Pat. And there's this resistance that they're going through, right? Because most people have resistance if you say to them like that. But I just see so many people, they've got this amazing knowledge. I mean, some of them, I mentioned to you, I've met some absolutely amazing consultants in my area. I'm talking about like people who are helping startups become like in the first top 50 fastest growing companies in the US. And now they into like writing books, and then they want to go back into the market and help more people. And then this is again, they're making the same mistakes, Who do you want to work with? Well, everyone. What do you do? Well, and then they become this coaching conversation, right? So they say, so rather than actually answering the questions, and that's what I used to do, right? They get into this coaching conversation. Well, tell me what problems you have. Well, tell me
yeah.
what vision you have. Well, tell me what's holding you back. And it's like a bit of a vicious circle, because I know they are, they can deliver value because I actually seen them in action. I've seen them, I saw the results. But whenever I run the introduction for them, they get going through this coaching conversation and then goes nowhere. So that's something I recognize for myself when I do it. And I still, by the way, I still have lots of lessons to learn. You either grow in your business, you either go forward or you go backwards. So I think
Great.
that's what I learned from you. And I'm gonna like keep your program with me, because okay, I've got the basics in place, but then how can I turn this into the next level? There is so much richness in your course. So that's sort of what I think that, so your program is absolutely perfect for facilitators because they can develop that consultation skills, which I haven't found absolutely anywhere. Like I've worked with facilitators, I attended different training courses, like no one is teaching you like that entrepreneurial skill set in the way that you teach. They might teach in their own way, but the way you teach, like no one that I know, you know. And then another thing is actually consultants, because they can be quite generic with what they do as well. And then they can end up saying, and I do strategic planning. And then all facilitators say, oh no, we do strategic planning, And it gets like, I can see it's confusing. If you're this leader, you want some help, like who do I go to? And and so you don't just say, well, you pick the niche and then go and sell it, but it's like create the framework for the niche. And the level of details, again, it's absolutely unheard of. But you go through that pain and then you begin to see that fluency in speaking shows up, because you really work out those details. And then when you have the call, you know exactly, how this needs to go.
And on that, then, what advice would you give to any facilitators or consultants who are considering joining the program, but they were on the fence about booking in a strategy call, booking in a consultation?
Oh, just do it. Just honestly, just basically the number one thing people need to be present, and I think they avoid doing this, is look at the results you get. So your business results going to be reflection of what you get, how many clients you have, what's the quality of clients that you have, what work you end up doing, where do you get the work from. You might be, oh, there's a lot of work I used to do initially, which was like half a day, and it wasn't a high value work. They could do it without me. And then so it takes my time as well. It wasn't the best use of my time and theirs, but I was grabbing onto this because that's how you start, and that's okay. But then as you develop yourself, as you see it on those, in those LinkedIn sessions, and you go to this networking, I think you're better off pause this local networking, this random conversation, especially if you're a facilitator. Like, they just don't know what you do. But you
It's
better develop your framework, and that you can actually drive conversation. Otherwise, you're just not going to grow. I really think like every facilitator needs to go through your program, and I really mean it.
Thank you, Ivana. On that note, I might just leave it there and say thank you.